The city exhaled its morning breath, a pungent cocktail of exhaust and warm bread, as Elara emerged from the subway. Above, the financial district's glass and steel behemoths caught the rising sun, scattering brilliant reflections like shattered diamonds. Today was pivotal. She wasn't merely Elara Vance, a woman etched with a lifetime of almosts and might-have-beens. Today, she was a contender. Her interview at Atheria Corp was set for 9. She arrived at 8:30, a nervous tremor thrumming beneath her skin. The Atheria building wasn't just large, it was a monolith, a shimmering spire piercing the clouds, its sheer scale a stark testament to the gulf between her humble origins and this gleaming corporate future. Elara tugged at the collar of her thrift store blazer, a familiar ache of inadequacy surfacing. Too old, a whisper in her mind began. Too old for all this newfangled. She cut the thought short. Not today. Inside, the lobby unfolded like a modern cathedral. Polished marble, hushed efficiency. Figures in impeccably tailored suits glided with purpose across the expansive floor. Elara approached the reception, where a young woman with a perfectly coiffed blonde bob offered a smile that felt expertly calibrated. Elara Vance, for an interview with Mr. Sterling, Elara announced, her voice steadier than she felt. Ah, Ms. Vance. Please, take a seat. Mr. Sterling will be with you shortly. The waiting area offered sparse, modern, and uncomfortably sleek chairs. Elara sat, hands clasped tightly, attempting to slow her racing breath. Her gaze snagged on a massive interactive display embedded opposite her. It showcased Atheria's latest triumphs. Impossibly thin devices, holographic projections, a dizzying tapestry of interconnected technologies. Her heart gave a sudden, sickening lurch. The neural interface prototype, featured prominently, the one enabling seamless human-computer interaction, poised to revolutionize data processing. For it, struck her with an uncanny familiarity. No, not uncanny. It was familiar. It was hers. Or, it had been. A cold dread began to seep in. For years, she'd toiled in her garage, meticulously developing the core algorithms, the unique haptic feedback system, the entire foundational architecture. She'd documented every step, filed patents, chased funding, but the rejections had piled up. The skepticism about a woman her age innovating such complex tech had mounted. And eventually, the project had languished, gathering digital dust in a forgotten corner of her archives. To see it here, polished and branded, was like encountering the ghost of her own unfulfilled potential. A man with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit emerged from a discreet doorway. Ms. Vance, Mr. Sterling will see you now. Elara pushed herself up, her legs feeling strangely heavy. The walk to Sterling's office stretched into an eternity. Mr. Henderson, Atheria's head of HR, ushered her into a vast space commanding panoramic city views. Mr. Sterling, a man whose silver hair and stern mien perfectly embodied the corporate aesthetic, sat behind an expansive glass desk. Ms. Vance, thank you for coming, Sterling said, his voice smooth and authoritative, gesturing to the chair opposite him. Please sit. The interview commenced conventionally enough, Sterling inquiring about her experience and qualifications. Elara responded, her mind still reeling from the lobby display. She spoke of her passion for technology, her problem-solving prowess, carefully omitting the more groundbreaking aspects of her past work, the ones that had been dismissed as eccentric or unrealistic. Then, Sterling leaned forward, his gaze piercing. Your resume is unconventional, Ms. Vance. A gap of several years, then a sudden interest in applied technological solutions. What exactly does that entail? Elara felt a flush creep up her neck. This was it, the age question, thinly veiled. I've been working on independent projects, developing proprietary systems, exploring new avenues in neural interface technology, she stated, striving for an even tone. The words felt like a tightrope walk. Sterling raised an eyebrow. Neural interface? Interesting. We're very invested in that field here at Atheria. Are you familiar with our Synapse line? He gestured to a smaller version of the device from the lobby, resting on a velvet stand on his desk. Her Synapse. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't merely a resemblance. It was identical to her final prototype. Every curve, every indicator light, every subtle design choice. Yes, Elara managed, her voice barely a whisper. I'm very familiar. A flicker of realization, perhaps concern, crossed Sterling's face. The air in the room thickened, suddenly charged with unspoken questions and a growing, unsettling tension. The bright smile she'd worn all morning felt like a fragile mask, ready to shatter. The scent of ozone still prickled at Elara's nostrils, a phantom reminder of the demonstration's raw power. Now the conference room hummed with a different kind of energy, a mixture of awe, unease, and barely suppressed excitement. The board members, usually a stoic collection of gray suits and even grayer expressions, fidgeted. Marcus Thorne, his face a mask of carefully constructed composure, cleared his throat. Elara, he began, his voice surprisingly soft for a man who'd just witnessed the impossible. That was quite the presentation. He gestured to the deactivated prototype, now resting harmlessly on its plinth. Oh, the Chronos Weave, as you call it. You claim it can manipulate localized temporal fields. Elara met his gaze evenly. It doesn't manipulate time, Marcus. It accesses latent temporal energy within a limited radius, allowing for highly efficient data processing and, as you saw, material restructuring. The potential applications are vast. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. And yes, I invented it years ago. A ripple went through the room. Several board members exchanged swift, loaded glances. Thorne's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. We understand that, Elara. What we're struggling to comprehend is why now? Why reveal this after all these years and under these particular circumstances? His tone had sharpened, a hint of the old steel returning. Because you tried to dismiss me, Elara stated, her voice devoid of triumph, only a quiet certainty. Because you deemed me too old for a role I was uniquely qualified for, a role that involved the very technology I pioneered. Because I believe my work, and the company's future, deserve better than short-sighted ageism. Silence descended, thick and uncomfortable. A younger board member, a woman named Anya, who had joined the company only recently, leaned forward. So if this Chronos Weave is your invention, and it was developed years ago, does that mean all the current proprietary temporal-based tech, the momentum matrix systems, are derived from your original work? Her eyes widened with realization. Elara nodded. The momentum matrix is a heavily diluted, commercially viable adaptation of my initial research. It lacks the precision, the efficiency, and certainly the raw power of the Chronos Weave. It's like comparing a bicycle to a jet engine. She didn't need to elaborate. The implication hung heavy in the air. Her company, had built its empire on her uncredited genius. Thorne's knuckles were white as he gripped the polished table. This is a serious accusation, Elara. We have patents, extensive legal documentation. Indeed, Elara countered, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips. And I have my original lab notes, time-stamped research logs, and several early prototypes that predate your official development timelines by over a decade. I believe the legal term is prior art. She glanced at Anya, who looked genuinely stunned. Beyond that, I also have several new ideas for the Chronos Weave's application that would make the momentum matrix obsolete within a fiscal quarter. The room erupted into a low murmur of agitated whispers. The weight of her claims, coupled with the undeniable power of her demonstration, had shifted the entire dynamic. They weren't interviewing her anymore, she was interviewing them. Thorne, for the first time, looked genuinely rattled. The smell of ozone was fading, replaced by the faint, acrid tang of fear. The scent of stale coffee and disinfectant clung to Elias's office like a second skin. He sat behind his polished mahogany desk, the glow of his monitor a cold sentinel in the dim room. And across from him, Sarah's hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white. The air between them was thick with unasked questions and unspoken accusations. So, you're telling me, Elias began, his voice dangerously low, that the glitch in the system, the one that almost wiped out 3 months of R&D, was a feature. Sarah met his gaze, her own unwavering. It was a failsafe, Elias, designed to prevent catastrophic data loss in the event of a specific type of external intrusion. A type that, by the way, you insisted was impossible. A muscle twitched in Elias's jaw. And this, failsafe, was implemented by me, Sarah stated plainly. Years ago, when I first developed the core architecture, it's in the original schematics, buried in the appendices. Elias scoffed, leaning back in his chair. The original schematics? Sarah, we're talking about technology that's been iterated upon countless times. To Noe. No one consults those dusty archives anymore. Perhaps they should, Sarah retorted, a spark of defiance in her eyes. Especially when the system is behaving exactly as it was designed to under duress. Before Elias could respond, a sharp knock echoed from the door. Dr. Eris Thorne, head of the Advanced Diagnostics Lab, entered without waiting for an invitation. He held a sleek, obsidian-colored tablet in one hand, his brow furrowed in concentration. Elias, Sarah, Thorne said, his voice clipped. I think you need to see this. He placed the tablet on Elias's desk, its screen a vibrant mosaic of intricate diagrams and glowing lines of code. Elias leaned forward, his expression shifting from irritation to curiosity. What is it? It's a diagnostic interface, Thorne explained, tapping the screen. An extraordinarily advanced one. It appeared on a secure server in our network this morning. It's controlling the glitch, Sarah gasped, leaning closer. The familiar layout, the specific iconography, the elegant, almost organic flow of data. It was unmistakable. Her heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against her ribs. This is impossible, Elias muttered, running a finger over the smooth surface of the tablet. Our systems are impenetrable. Who could have created something like this? That's what's so perplexing, Thorne continued, his gaze flicking between the two of them. It's not an external hack. It's an internal signature. The coding is unique, almost a fingerprint, and it's actively stabilizing the system, rerouting the anomalies. Sarah reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched the tablet. Her touch seemed to awaken something within it. The screen pulsed, and a new window opened, displaying a message in a clear, elegant font. System restoration initiated. Estimated time to full recovery, 48 hours. Elias's eyes widened. 48 hours? Our team has been working around the clock for days, and they've barely contained the spread. Thorne nodded, a hint of awe in his voice. This tablet? It's operating at a level we can't replicate. And the design, it's oddly familiar. He looked at Sarah, a question dawning in his eyes. Sarah, have you ever seen anything like this before? Sarah swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. I designed it. Elias and Thorne stared at her, stunned silence filling the room. The tablet, humming softly on the desk, seemed to confirm her words with its quiet, purposeful efficiency. The glitch wasn't a flaw. It was a conversation, and Sarah had just answered. The clatter of the automated production line, a sound Elara had designed to be a comforting hum, now felt like a relentless drill bit boring into her skull. Dismissed, Mr. Sterling had said, his voice flat, his gaze as cold and polished as the chrome on his desk. Effective immediately. Elara hadn't even flinched. The words hung in the sterile air of the executive suite, a final, definitive period at the end of a long, unwritten sentence. She'd simply nodded, a slow, deliberate motion, her hands clasped loosely in front of her. The shock had long since given way to a quiet, burning indignation. After all the hours, the sleepless nights fueled by strong coffee, and even stronger conviction, this was her reward. We appreciate your contributions, Miss Vance, Sterling continued, a practiced cadence, devoid of sincerity. He pushed a manila envelope across the polished mahogany, your severance package, and final pay. And a non-disclosure agreement. Her eyes, usually sharp and inquisitive, flickered to the envelope, then back to Sterling's placid face. Naturally, she echoed, her voice a low murmur, barely audible over the distant thrum of machinery. She picked up the envelope, the paper feeling flimsy and inconsequential in her grasp. The NDA was a slap in the face, a gag order on the very intellect they were now discarding. As she turned to leave, her gaze swept over the panoramic window overlooking the sprawling campus. The building she had helped design, the very heart of their revolutionary technology, now seemed to mock her with its silent, imposing presence. Down in the bustling common area, the usual chatter of employees died down as Elara walked past, an invisible ripple of unease spreading through the cubicles. Faces, once familiar and friendly, now averted their eyes, or offered hurried, sympathetic glances. No one dared to speak, not with Sterling's formidable reputation looming. She found her office, a small, personalized sanctuary amidst the corporate anonymity, already partially cleared. Her awards, the framed patents, the hand-drawn schematics, all gone. Only a half-empty mug of cooling tea remained on her desk, a forgotten relic of a life abruptly ended. A pang of something akin to grief tightened her chest. It wasn't just a job, it was her life's work. A soft cough broke the silence. Marcus, a young engineer she had mentored, stood hesitantly in her doorway, his usually cheerful face etched with concern. "Elara, I heard. I'm so sorry." She managed a weak smile. "It's all right, Marcus. Happens to the best of us, eventually." He stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "But it's not right, Elara. Not with what's going on." Elara raised an eyebrow. A spark of her old curiosity rekindled. "What's going on?" Marcus glanced around nervously, as if the walls themselves had ears. "There have been anomalies, fluctuations in the core algorithms. Not just minor glitches, but fundamental shifts. It's almost as if someone is trying to reverse engineer it from the inside." He wrung his hands, his brow furrowed. "The efficiency is dropping. Production is slowing. They're trying to cover it up. But the data? It's screaming for your attention, Elara. Something's wrong with your tech. And without you, no one here understands it well enough to fix it." Elara's heart gave a sudden lurch. Her technology. Her baby. Flaws were inevitable, but fundamental shifts? That suggested sabotage. A cold dread seeped into her bones, replacing the indignation. "Who?" she whispered, the question barely escaping her lips. Marcus shook his head, his eyes wide with genuine fear. "I don't know, but whoever it is, they're clever. And they're deep within the system. You leaving it feels too convenient." The full weight of the situation settled upon Elara. Dismissed. Yes. But not just dismissed. Silenced. And for a very specific, very dangerous reason. She looked at Marcus, a silent promise passing between them. This wasn't just about her job anymore. This was about her legacy, and a whisper of trouble that could shatter the very foundation of the company she had built. The scent of stale coffee and fear clung to the air of Marcus Thorne's office, thick enough to taste. Rain lashed against the panoramic window, each drumbeat a stark counterpoint to the thrumming silence between him and Evelyn Reed. Her face, usually a canvas of quiet determination, was now etched with a profound weariness. Lines deepened around eyes that had seen too much. The heavy leather briefcase sat on his polished mahogany desk, a dark, unassuming monolith between them. "You're sure about this, Evelyn?" Marcus's voice was a low rumble, laced with a concern that went beyond professional courtesy. He'd known Evelyn for decades, watched her rise and then, unfairly, be pushed aside. He knew the cost of what she was about to reveal. Evelyn nodded, her gaze fixed on the briefcase. "There's no other way, Marcus. They're claiming it as their own. Everything I poured my life into. Every sleepless night, every sacrifice, it's being erased." Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the silver clasps. The click echoed in the opulent office, a tiny sound with immense implications. Inside, nestled amongst layers of anti-static foam, lay a device no bigger than a smartphone, yet humming with an almost imperceptible energy. Its casing was a dull matte black, deliberately nondescript, but its internal architecture was revolutionary. This was the heart of the Genesis project, the neural network processing unit that made all of Thorncore's cutting-edge AI possible. It was also, unequivocally, Evelyn's creation. She lifted it, handling it with the reverence one might accord a fragile, living thing. "This is the original prototype," she explained, her voice gaining strength, tinged with a quiet pride. "The one I built in my garage, years before I ever joined Thorn Corp. The one they dismissed as too theoretical when I first pitched it, then later too old-fashioned when I tried to reintroduce my updated designs." She placed it gently on the desk. "And here." From a hidden compartment within the briefcase, she extracted a slim, encrypted data chip. This contains the complete, dated development logs. Every line of code, every design iteration, every failed experiment and subsequent breakthrough, all timestamped and cryptographically signed. It predates their official, Genesis, project by almost a decade. Marcus picked up the chip, feeling the weight of it in his palms. It was cold, hard proof, undeniable evidence of intellectual property theft on a colossal scale. The implications were staggering, not just for Chronos Corp, but for the entire industry. The company's meteoric rise, its reputation as an innovator, all rested on this stolen foundation. "This will bring them down, Evelyn," he said, his voice flat. He wasn't just talking about the current leadership, he meant the very edifice of Chronos Corp. The company he had helped build, the company that had betrayed her. Evelyn met his gaze, her eyes clear and resolute, despite the lingering pain. "They left me no choice, Marcus. They took my work, then they took my dignity. They called me too old, dismissed my experience, pushed me out the door. But they didn't erase the truth." A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through her. "I just want what's mine, and I want them to acknowledge it." Marcus nodded slowly, the rain outside still a relentless drumming. The air felt charged, heavy with the weight of impending revelation. Not. The battle was far from over, but with the secrets now laid bare on his desk, Evelyn had finally armed herself. The war for her legacy, and for the soul of innovation itself, had truly begun. He reached for his secure comms, a determined glint in his eye. "Let's begin." Quote, the familiar fluorescent hum of the office, usually a comforting drone to Elara, a pulse of life at TechSolutions, felt today like a discordant rasp against her frayed nerves. She clutched a lukewarm mug of herbal tea, its meager steam failing to thaw the chill gripping her. Across the polished conference table, CEO Marcus Thorne, typically a figure of unflappable authority, ran a hand through his perpetually neat hair. His face was etched with an unfamiliar gauntness. "The board meeting was intense," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "They're demanding answers. Our market value has plummeted 20% in 3 days. The patent infringement suit from Quantum Tech isn't merely a threat now, it's a full-blown siege." Elara's stomach tightened. She had anticipated this, watched the storm clouds gather, yet the reality was a brutal, physical blow. "And our legal team's assessment?" she inquired, her tone belying the tremor within. Marcus shoved a thick folder across the table. Its contents, already seared into Elara's mind from countless late-night reviews, were stark. They believe Quantum Tech has a robust case. The similarities between our core processing algorithm and their patented quantum lock architecture are undeniable, according to their expert witnesses. He paused, his gaze locking with hers, a silent accusation hanging, especially considering the timing of our product launch. Quote, Elara's jaw clenched. The irony was a bitter tang on her tongue. She had engineered that technology decades ago, a lifetime before TechSolutions was even a glimmer in a venture capitalist's eye. But how could she possibly prove it? Her ancient notebooks, filled with hand-drawn schematics, lay gathering dust in an attic box, dismissed as the whimsical scribblings of a bygone era. "We need a solution, Elara," Marcus pressed, his voice hardening. "The board wants to know our strategy. They're discussing halting production, pulling the product from the market. It could be the end of the company." A cold dread spread through Elara. TechSolutions was her lifeblood, the culmination of years of relentless effort. To witness its collapse, especially under such a fabricated pretense, was unbearable. "Halting production isn't an option," she declared, her voice firm despite the internal maelstrom. "We'd forfeit everything, our market share, our reputation." "Then what is?" Marcus challenged, his frustration bubbling over. "Quantum Tech is demanding $1 billion settlement and a complete shutdown of our core product line. They've even hinted at industrial espionage." Quote, Elara's mind spun, sifting through possibilities, each more desperate than the last. She pictured the young engineers, their bright faces and eager minds, who had poured themselves into this project. She recalled the countless hours she had dedicated, the sacrifices she had made. This wasn't just about a corporation, it was about her legacy, her very identity. There's one thing, Elara said slowly, her gaze distant, fixed on a suddenly precarious future. It's a long shot. A very long shot. Marcus leaned forward, a flicker of hope animating his tired eyes. At this point, Elara, we're open to anything. I need time, she said, meeting his gaze, a steely resolve hardening her features. And I need access. To everything. Old code. Archived project files. Even the initial concept documents. Everything from the very inception of this technology. She understood the magnitude of her request. She was asking to excavate the past. To unearth a secret she had buried for decades. A secret that, if revealed, would irrevocably alter TechSolutions, and her. The CEO's demand. The scent of polished mahogany and stale coffee hung heavy in Elias Thorne's office, a smell that had long since replaced the aroma of ambition. He gestured toward the empty seat across his massive desk, his eyes, the color of gunmetal, fixed on Sarah. Miss Jenkins. Or should I say, Dr. Jenkins. The title tasted like ash on his tongue. Sarah remained standing, her posture erect despite the tremor in her hands she fought to suppress. Sarah is fine, Mr. Thorne. The cool professionalism in her voice was a thin veil over the years of dismissal and underestimation. He leaned back, a predatory glint in his gaze. Let's not play games, and we'll obey. We both know why you're here. He tapped a manicured finger on a thick binder emblazoned with the Chronos logo. This, our flagship product, the very backbone of Thorne Innovations, is your brainchild. Your original patents, quietly filed under a shell corporation a decade ago, expired last month. And now you're back. The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah finally sat, her spine stiff. I had no intention of returning. My work was meant to benefit humanity, not line the pockets of a corporation that deemed me too old to contribute. The words were a bitter pill, swallowed years ago, now resurfacing. Elias chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Sentimental nonsense. We built an empire on your brilliance, Sarah, an empire that is now vulnerable. He pushed a tablet across the desk. A blinking red alert dominated the screen. Chronos V2, 0 critical flaw detected. Below it, a projected revenue loss figure that made Sarah's breath catch. Our engineers are stumped, he continued, his voice losing its casual tone. The core algorithm, your temporal displacement matrix, is experiencing unpredictable quantum decoherence. It's rendering the V2, 0 units unstable, dangerous even, and you, Dr. Jenkins, are the only one who truly understands it. Sarah felt a cold dread creep through her. Unstable Chronos devices could lead to catastrophic results. Lives could be at risk. This wasn't about corporate greed anymore. It was about the integrity of her life's work. What do you want? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Thorne's smile returned, devoid of warmth. I want you to fix it. Immediately. And in return, he paused, letting the silence build. Thorne Innovations will acquire all your remaining intellectual property, effectively buying you out, completely. We will then offer you a position as lead research scientist, a blank check for your budget, and a seat on the board. You will be compensated handsomely, beyond your wildest dreams. He watched her, gauging her reaction. The offer was staggering, a full circle from the day they'd told her she was obsolete. The opportunity to reclaim her legacy, to ensure her technology was safe and used responsibly, was intoxicating. But the cost-complete surrender of her autonomy. What if I refuse? She challenged, though a part of her already knew the answer. Thorne's gunmetal eyes hardened. Refusal would be unwise. We have a team of lawyers who are exceptionally skilled at navigating patent law. We could tie up your remaining IP in litigation for years, effectively stifling any further innovation you might pursue. And the public, well, they'd be very interested to hear about the scientist who knowingly allowed a critical flaw in her technology to endanger countless users. The implicit threat hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the power he wielded. Sarah's gaze drifted to the city sprawling beneath the penthouse window, a testament to the future she had helped build. As she could walk away, try to fight, but the thought of Chronos units malfunctioning, causing unknown havoc, gnawed at her. She had a responsibility. A deep sigh escaped her lips. I'll need access to the V2. Zero schematics, the anomaly data, and a full team of engineers at my disposal. And my contract will include a clause for full creative control over any future Chronos iterations. She met his gaze, a flicker of defiance in her own. This isn't just about fixing a bug, Mr. Thorne. It's about ensuring the future of my invention. Thorne's smile widened, a victor's grin. Excellent, Dr. Jenkins. I believe we have a deal. He extended a hand, and Sarah, with a sense of both triumph and profound unease, took it. The polished office, the scent of ambition, now felt less like a cage and more like a battlefield. The heavy air in the small, windowless office carried the ghost of stale coffee and ozone. Sunlight, a distant whisper, tried in vain to pierce the grimy pane in the hallway. Elara's knuckles, stark white against the worn cardboard, gripped the manila folder as if it were her only anchor. Across the scarred laminate desk, Mr. Henderson's bald spot gleamed under the unforgiving fluorescent tubes as he adjusted his spectacles. So, Elara, he rumbled, you're certain this is genuine? This Project Chimera? A shiver ran through Elara as she confirmed. It is, Mr. Henderson. Every minutia aligns with their patent application, the frequency modulation, the phase shift keying, even the proprietary algorithm for data packet prioritization. She nudged the folder forward. Inside, cradled among a collection of meticulously organized documents, lay a thick, official-looking printout. Its cover bore the imposing seal of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and beneath it, in bold, unambiguous lettering, Patent Number, U.S. 11, 456, 789B2, Method and Apparatus for Adaptive Wireless Data Transmission. Henderson picked it up, his brow knitting as he scanned the abstract. Inventors, Dr. Anya Sharma, Dr. Marcus Thorne, no mention of you, Elara. His voice held a note of genuine puzzlement, bordering on incredulity. They wouldn't. Elara whispered, the words sour on her tongue. They never would. Her gaze snagged on a faded photograph tacked to the corkboard beside Henderson's desk. A younger, vibrant Elara, beaming amidst a team in lab coats, standing before a complex web of circuitry. Anya Sharma and Marcus Thorne were prominent in the front row, radiating confidence. Henderson leafed through the patent, his eyes flitting across the dense technical jargon. This is their groundbreaking, Apex Connect, technology. The one they're touting as revolutionary. The very system we've been fruitlessly trying to reverse engineer for months. He looked up, his expression a fascinating blend of awe and creeping dread. You're saying you invented this? Elara's throat constricted. I designed the core architecture, developed the initial algorithms, and constructed the first working prototype. Project Chimera was my initiative. Anya and Marcus were my graduate students. When the university decided to commercialize it, they sidelined me, claimed I was too old, that I lacked the entrepreneurial spirit for the startup world. They seized my research, my labor, and founded Apex Innovations. Henderson slammed the patent application down, the sharp report echoing in the confined space. His customary stoicism had vanished, replaced by a simmering wrath. They pilfered your invention, Elara. Not merely your concept, but your actual, documented work. This is an undeniable instance of intellectual property theft. He flung a hand towards the photograph. And they're grinning like they just hit the jackpot while you were left with nothing but ghosts and a dismissal letter. A tight knot of anticipation coiled in Elara's gut. This was it. The apex. Years of quiet anguish, of witnessing her life's devotion propel others to renown, were finally converging in this small, dusty office. What do we do, Mr. Henderson? She asked, her voice barely a breath, yet resolute. Henderson leaned forward, his eyes alight with newfound determination. We retaliate, Elara. We expose them. We prove that this patent, this entire enterprise, is built upon deception. And we ensure you receive the recognition and the justice you deserve. He reached for the phone, his fingers already dialing. This isn't just about a job anymore. This is about rectifying a colossal injustice. The line clicked, and Elara watched, a fragile hope unfurling in her chest, as Henderson began to speak, his voice now crisp and commanding. Get me our legal department. I have an urgent matter regarding patent infringement and scientific fraud. Elara drew a deep, shaky breath. The weight of the manila folder suddenly felt immeasurably lighter. The campaign had begun. The scent of ozone, a familiar tang mixed with something vaguely metallic, filled Elara's nostrils as the airship's ramp hissed open. Sunlight, sharp and unyielding, flooded the cabin, momentarily blinding her after the dim interior. She squinted, her hand unconsciously reaching for the polished bronze of her cane. Around her, the murmuring of the other passengers ceased, replaced by a collective intake of breath. Before her stretched the bustling landing platform of the sky city of Erador. But it wasn't the usual chaos of porters and merchants. Instead, a neat formation of uniformed figures stood at attention, their silver epaulets glinting. At their head, a man in a crisp white tunic, his graying temples hinting at years of authority, stepped forward. Admiral Thorne. Elara felt a faint tremor in her hand. It had been decades since she'd seen Thorne. Not since the days when she was a promising young engineer, and he, a stern but fair mentor. Now, he was the face of the very institution that had dismissed her. The irony was a bitter taste on her tongue. Dr. Vance, Thorne's voice boomed, cutting through the hum of distant machinery. His expression was unreadable, a careful blend of professional deference and something that might have been surprise. Or perhaps, Elara thought, regret. On behalf of the Eradorian Council, welcome back. A smattering of polite applause rippled through the onlookers. Not the boisterous cheers of a hero's return, but a measured acknowledgement. Elara offered a curt nod, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. She recognized some faces, older now, etched with the passage of time. Former colleagues, engineers whose careers she'd helped launch, now stood on the periphery, their expressions a mix of curiosity and something akin to awe. Admiral, Elara replied, her voice steady, despite the knot of nerves in her stomach. It appears my services are once again required. Thorne's lips twitched, a fleeting hint of a smile that never quite reached his eyes. Indeed. We understand your time is valuable. Own. A transport is waiting. He gestured to a sleek, ground-level vehicle, its polished chrome gleaming. As she descended the ramp, her gaze fell upon a young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, standing a little apart from the official delegation. Her eyes, a startling shade of green, met Elara's. There was an intelligent curiosity there, and a spark of recognition. The woman held a data slate, its screen displaying what looked like complex schematics. Elara felt a flicker of intrigue. This is Dr. Lena Petrova, Thorne introduced, noticing Elara's attention. She's been instrumental in analyzing the anomalies we've been experiencing. Lena stepped forward, a faint blush on her cheeks. Dr. Vance, it's an honor, your work. It's legendary. Her voice was soft but held an underlying current of earnestness. Elara offered a rare, genuine smile. Please, call me Elara, and it seems, my legendary work has decided to resurface with a vengeance. A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the officials. The humor was thin, coated with the very real fear that had gripped Erador. Elara felt the weight of their expectations settle upon her shoulders, a familiar burden she hadn't carried in decades. The ride through the Sky City was a blur of towering spires and intricate walkways. Lena sat beside her, occasionally glancing at her data slate. The energy fluctuations have been escalating, Lena explained, her voice hushed. We've tried every diagnostic, every recalibration. Nothing works. The power grid, it's destabilizing. Elara looked out at the familiar yet changed cityscape. The elegant, soaring structures still spoke of human ingenuity, but underneath, she sensed the tremor of instability, a subtle discord in the hum of the city. And these anomalies, they are specific to the core systems, yes? The primary power conduits? Precisely, Lena confirmed, her green eyes widening. How did you know? Elara merely smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. Because I built them, and I know their weaknesses, just as I know their strengths. The air crackled with unspoken potential, a challenge laid bare. This was not merely a return. It was a reckoning. The city that had dismissed her now depended on her to save itself from the very technology she had created. The tension in the air was palpable, a silent promise of the storms to come.